Right.
Thanks for coming.
A little bit late, actually.
Oh, hi, everybody.
Good reasons. Good reasons for that. Evening, everyone.
Evening, everybody. You may notice that certain person isn't here at the moment. He's actually out there feeling very sorry for himself. Jude, take it away.
Yeah, well, we'll have to tell the story again. But the big guy who obviously is normally round about here ruined our game of bat and ball earlier by swallowing the ball whole. And therefore, I've literally about a minute and a half ago walked back through the door with a sorry-looking dog and the ball, actually.
Having been to the emergency vet, and anybody who's got a dog knows how much that costs, especially in a shutdown. Eye-watering, but he's okay. Not feeling too happy. He may join us. Anyway, evening, everybody. We've already got our glass going on because it's been rather stressful. I did get Jude the big glass, but she came back and promptly smashed it.
Broke it on the way in, sadly. Yeah, it's a disaster. Anyway.
So cheers and welcome to Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
Oi, 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 cheers.
Do you like it?
Hope you like the hats. This is, took a bit of making.
Quite noisy, this. Great use of corks, obviously. Who'd have thought it?
There's no shortage of corks in this household. So yes, we're sorry that Finn won't be joining us this evening. Although, no, he's not. It's not looking likely.
But this evening we are joined by our friends on Instagram. So evening, everybody who's tuning in through Instagram.
Yes. Cheers and
chin,
welcome.
Chin chin.
Having to slightly manage two cameras with that because as everybody who tunes in regularly knows that we're mastering technology at about the same pace as everyone else in the world at the moment.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've got the corks on.
Yep.
Got the corks on.
The old HB hats came out again. First time this year, I think.
Second, we had them in the garden a few weeks ago when the lockdown hairdos were really going wild. G'day, Michelle Clark.
G'day.
And thanks for your kind thoughts, Luke and Amanda and Steve, for Finn. I'm sure he appreciates it.
I tell you what, that dog.
It's cost us a fortune, but we might be able to coax him in later on just to come and say hello. Essentially, just for a biscuit, which is about the only way to coax the dog like
biscuit.
So we are on Australia this evening. We suggested two wines that we were going to talk about, and I'm just going to mention what they are now, actually.
Yeah.
So two of our Aussie favourites. This one, which I should have put the photo in, really. Philip Shaw, the Architect Chardonnay from Orange in New South Wales. And then the red is an old vine Grenache by a lovely chappie called Simon Hackett. And this is from McLaren Vale. So two really super duper wines. I hope you've got one or the other or something very similar or equally as good because they're a joy.
So here's the thing. Australia, where to start? It's huge. Jude's got a map.
Oh, yes, here we go. Yeah.
Here we go. Bit of technology for you.
Talk amongst yourselves whilst I'll just find the map.
And where to start? Do we start with the good, the bad, or the ugly?
Well, maybe you should just mention about your time in Australia because you have.
I have many stories to tell.
Yeah, but what did you work? You worked out there, didn't you?
I didn't work out there, but I did work for the Foster's Beer Group. And for those of you who don't know, and very few people do know this in actual fact, because Foster's kept it kind of under wraps. Mm-hmm. But at a certain point, Foster's were the second biggest wine owner or vineyard owner in the world. And what happened was in the kind of like early to mid 80s, mm-hmm. Beer sales were plummeting. And I mean, they were really going down, but it was around about, actually, it was a little bit later than that. It was sort of mid to late 80s, I think I said to early 80s. Did I? Anyway, it doesn't matter. And they kind of thought, ooh, wine was going on the up. So beer was doing this, wine was doing this. And they thought, hang on, we can get on that bandwagon. And so they did. And they set about buying vineyards left, right and centre all over Australia. And basically created a wine proposition for themselves. But of course, in true beer format, because remember Foster's, they're great at beer, although never advertised Foster's in Australia. But VB, Victoria Beer, was their number one. But they kind of lost their way a little bit. And when I was working for them, it was sort of towards the end of a very sorry tale, when they really had this idea that they could just turn the tap on like a beer tap. And of course, everybody knows, because you all listen to Hannibal Brown every week now, and you're
twice
all
a week,
masters twice a week, Thursday and Sunday. Everybody knows that you can't do that in the wine industry because it's subject to the climate. And Australia, again, has gone through a massive fire ravage. And of course, when this happens, there are no vines, there are no grapes, there's nothing. So Foster's really struggled with this sort of dilemma of not being able to, well, where's the wine? Where's the wine? Where's the wine? Wanted to sort of treat it as beer and couldn't. And they really got their fingers seriously burnt as a result. But when I was working for them, they had set up, so just to give you an idea, Foster's were responsible for Lindemans. You've all heard of Lindemans, Dr. Lindemann. You've all heard of Penfolds. You've all heard of Rosemounts, Wolf Blass. This was all Foster's, and countless other major brands that you see up and down the supermarkets. Quality
major brands.
Yes, except at the top level they are. Penfolds at the top level are fantastic wines. And actual fact, Foster's did largely leave Penfolds alone because they realised it was a quality proposition. But at the lower end, and certainly, I mean, I remember when I went for my first interview with Foster's as a buyer, and they said, well, how much, what's the price that you can negotiate for a litre of wine in the Southern Hemisphere, actually, not Australia, because they wanted to develop Lindemans in Chile, Argentina, and South Africa. So that was my role. And all they wanted to do was get the best price. So I think we were paying about 30p a litre is how much they were paying.
Great, sounds lovely.
Even less at one point, but then the exchange rate didn't go so well, and then it became more expensive. But anyway, just to tell you, actually, that's how much the value of the wine was in a bottle of Lindemans, 30p.
Very much the other end of the scale to where we're dealing. We just need to say a few hellos, actually.
Good evening, Epsom Hockey Cook team, and Jane Rhodes.
Hi, Vicky. Thank you. Glad you like the hats, especially made for the occasion. They're getting a little bit wobbly and probably a bit distracting. But Steve has got the Simon Hackett ready, which is good. Jane and Felicity are on tea due to a bit of a session last night.
Oh, la la.
We might have had something to do with that, but only a short period of it. But hope you had a lovely evening, ladies.
Yeah.
So
just to say, in actual fact, this was a couple of people who are tuning in this evening. We did a private virtual wine tasting for a birthday party where there were about 10 or 11 households participating. We did it through Zoom. So if anybody else is out there who wants to do it, it's great fun. It works. I hope it works for Jane. Well, obviously they drank
loads of wine, that's for sure. But it was a big birthday, and I hope they had a great time.
But just give us a shout. All the details are on the website, hannibalbrown.com.
So just a quick recap for those of you who joined us since we gave our quick introduction. Today is all about Australia. Those of you who have been tuning in with us before, we don't always have corks dangling from our hats, thank goodness. But we do usually have Finn the dog, who is...
I'm just checking. He's all right.
Yeah, he's had a bit of an ordeal through swallowing the bat and ball hole in front of us. And we've just had to go and have it
removed.
Well, we won't talk about it because hopefully people are eating and drinking lovely things. But needless to say, it's all fine. We will play bat and ball again, and Finn will probably eat the ball again. We must find a cheaper way of getting it back.
Yeah.
So Sam has got the Chardonnay and is hoping to be pleasantly surprised because there's got to be said that Aussie Chardonnay is a frightening, or used to be a frightening concept.
ABC.
Yeah, anything but Chardonnay. It'd be interesting to know, actually, who out there is a categorically no Chardonnay person. I mean, it's sad because there's some fantastic wines out there. However, there are good reasons for people to have been put off in the past.
Yeah, and again, it takes me back to when I was working for Foster's. So I was based in the UK working with the winemakers in Australia, and they obviously had to send samples through all the time, because bear in mind those massive brands, we were shipping millions of litres of this stuff. So for quality control purposes, they would continually send the samples over, and we would continually go back to them and say, please stop putting so much oak or, oak flavoring in the wine, because this is not what the market wants. And we told them until we went blue in the face. And it was such a hard task in actual fact, because it seemed like the Aussies thought that that's what we wanted. We wanted these really intense, massive, groundbreaking, big, explosive, oaky Chardonnays. And we did, you're right, we did want them for a while back in the 70s and early 80s. Everybody wanted these massive, great wines of 14, 15% that knocks you stupid, and, full of oak content. And then, of course, things changed.
When you get a bit sick of these things, which are too much flavour, too much alcohol.
Yeah.
Hey, Felicity and Jane.
But so actually, the things changed. People moved to sort of something lighter. They just wanted lightness, less alcohol, less oak, less and less, and just more freshness. And that it was the reason why Chardonnay gets such a bad reputation. It is a hark back to,
back in the
80s.
There's actually quite a good question here, which has just come through on Instagram from Frosty. Is
Frosty the snowman?
Yeah, quite
Frosty?
potentially. Not
Hello,
a snowman
Frosty.
at the moment. Is Chablis Chardonnay. So it's a good one, actually. And it's got to be said that people don't really associate the two, because it's such a different style to the Australian Chardonnays that are named Chardonnay on the bottle.
Yep.
But yes, it is. And we'll come back to that, actually.
Oh, will we?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So somebody is saying, I remember that time back in the 80s. It was kind of amazing at first. It was. Yeah. And the Australians really, really started the wine world. They did a fantastic job. Their marketing was fabulous. They realized that they had something that the Brits particularly wanted. And they, they just pushed it. They absolutely milked it. But as you said, people got bored of it and just like overwhelmed by these styles, which were just too big. But that's the bad end. These days, buy a bottle of Lindemans, and actually it's very light. There's much less.
So are we talking Lindemans bog standard Chardonnay here? Is that where we're going?
Bog standard, stainless steel fermented, might have a little smattering of oak in it, but largely kind of freshened up. Penfolds are good wines in actual fact. They really are. And Wolf Blass. Well, Wolf Blass, what can I say? Wolf Blass used to be a fabulous brand. And unfortunately, at the time I was working for them, Foster's, they mothballed the Wolf Blass winery. And for a time, all the Wolf Blass wine was coming out of the Lindemans winery. So
all the same.
But
stuff
I like
then,
to
really.
think that actually times have moved on, and Foster's are no longer associated with wine. It's all sold out. They've gone back to their beer. They lost millions, probably billions.
Found a happy, well, not a happy home, but just gone back to their roots, which is what they know about.
Yeah. And those brands are still, there's still a place for them in supermarkets. So not on Hannibal Brown's wine list.
No, absolutely not. So obviously Australia it's not got an ancient history in terms of since the Europeans and the Westerners got there,
the prisoners
stamped out the Aboriginal real culture, which is the Aborigines weren't growing wine grapes. They only arrived with the first boats back in the late 1700s.
Yeah.
So relatively new history.
Yeah.
But it's gone through a whole evolution in a short period of time, and now it's at a really, really good point, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's some really amazing quality. Okay, the big brands are always going to be there flogging plonk, but that's in every country.
But then they've got the small producers, and we love the small producers, and we particularly love this guy, don't we?
Dude, Philip Shaw. Yes, we do.
What is so special about Philip Shaw?
So Philip Shaw is a really interesting, quirky kind of a guy, as are his family. And they're a small winery who spend a lot of time and attention on their wines and their labels and their brand, and it all looks lovely. The wines are from a place called Orange. They're not orange wines.
Orange.
So, which is an important point, actually, because orange wine is a whole different ball game, and we'll talk about that one day, maybe.
Yeah.
You have red, white, rosé, sparkling, and orange wine. Okay. But this is from Orange, and Orange is a little place in New South Wales. If you go inland from Sydney, past the Blue Mountains,
about 200 miles west, isn't it?
Just the other side of the Blue Mountains.
Yeah.
Higher, so 600 meters upwards. So cooler, and this is where the key is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not big, hot climate. Monster Chardonnays,
and it is true to say that Philip Shaw is one of the few wine producers this year that hasn't been affected by the major fires. I don't know whether there's any smoke taint or anything, and that is the problem with these forest fires. Even if the vines don't get burnt or anything, if there's smoke in the environment, in the atmosphere, then that kind of basically precipitates into the grape skins, and you do end up with a smoky wine.
Fumé. Just to mention, someone's pointed out that our stream on Instagram stopped. I actually knocked it on the head because it was I think with the available bandwidth, it was sort of stretching everything, so we were getting a bit blurry. So we'll work on that. We'll get back to Instagram next week.
Sorry,
once
Instagram.
The broadband booster has arrived. But it's just nice to see that we have a genuine Australian.
G'day, McLeod.
G'day, Kate.
Noise hats, ladies.
Noise hats, yeah. We're going to be useless at Australian accents, so we can't even.
Anyway, so just going back to Filippo, he's a right old character. He designs his own labels. Funny chap, really quite a comedian.
See if I can get this a little bit.
My God, does he know how to make wine?
No, useless.
And so going back to the question about Chablis, who asked the question about Chablis?
Someone on Instagram.
Oh, right. Oh dear, we've lost him. Well,
hopefully they'll come and find us.
Somebody asked the question, is Chardonnay the same as Chablis? Now, I'm sure many of you know that Chablis is a dinky little village in Burgundy, on sort of the east side of France. But they are only permitted to grow Chardonnay as the white grape variety in Chablis. And Chablis is like 99.9% Chardonnay. There could well be the odd little bottle of Pinot Noir knocking about, I don't know. But it's predominantly, it's 99.9% Chardonnay. So, and arguably some of the best Chardonnays in the world come from Chablis. We get a lot of people who go, I don't like Chardonnay, but I love Chablis. It's like, well, it's the same thing. But Chablis, more mineral, a lot more mineral, tends to be produced in stainless steel tanks, not too much oak. And that's the key. The French Burgundians really know how to treat Chardonnay. They don't over oak it. They don't over barrel age it. They have just a nice,
delicate
touch. And this is what Philip Shaw does. He knows this because he regularly puts his wine into the Burgundian competitions and regularly beats them, knocks the pants off them. And these are wines that are like €100 a bottle, whereas Philip Shaw is $15.99, a Billy bargain.
I think we need to lose the hats. It might be causing the blurriness. So now the hair is going to be an issue, but let us know if it's any better. But I'm glad you appreciated the effort. So there was a question here. Tim was asking about corks and screw caps, but basically suggesting that maybe if we switched our cork hats for screw caps, the pixelation would be sorted. But I feel that I have no time or inclination to do that right now, but maybe next week we'll give it a go.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. All right.
So Chardonnay. Sam, what do you think about the Chardonnay? You were a non-believer. Tim actually pointed out earlier that they wouldn't go to Chardonnay, but it's going remarkably well with the chicken and tarragon. So that's great to hear. And actually, chicken and tarragon, what a lovely combination.
The tarragon's strong flavors. So this should sit quite comfortably with it.
Sam just asked a question about sparkling Shiraz, which is definitely an Aussie thing. I've not seen it from anywhere else. In fact, specifically Jacob's Creek. I'm sure there are other people make it.
It's a funny old thing in actual fact. We do get asked maybe once every 6 months if we have a sparkling Shiraz, and to be honest, it doesn't really justify the time.
We've tried it on numerous occasions, and
I mean,
It's interesting.
It is. It's, you know, I think it did have a moment in the 90s. I remember when I was working for a major restaurant group, and we did an awful lot of sparkling Shiraz chills, and it did have a bit of a peak, and people were like, "Ooh," quite enthusiastic about it. But did it hang around? Not really. I mean, you know, down in the south of France, where it gets super hot in Provence, you know, a lot of the chaps there are quite happy to drink red wine and throw the ice in red wine. Is it sparkling? No, it's not. But it's not that dissimilar.
Yeah, which is okay. I mean, if you've got some really nice charcuterie,
Yeah.
Why not? Why not? Bit of novelty. It's not. I wouldn't go to it straight away, but
I mean, it kind of has a sort of slight earthiness to it. You can get some with sort of more fruit driven, but the key is to sort of chill it and drink it like a sparkling white, really.
So
it doesn't do anything for me, to be honest. It really doesn't.
No, well, we won't be listing one, but if you want one, we have got one in the shed, and if Karen has tuned in, it's
if you want it, you can have the one in the shed.
So I'm just going to put it out there. We have probably mentioned this in recent tastings, but so Chardonnay is the third widest grape variety grown in Australia, not counting table grapes, which is vast, and dried fruit. So what do we think the most widely grown grape variety in Aussie land is?
Ooh, good question.
Put it out there, get your answers on a postcard or pop them in the thing.
The most widely grown grape variety in Australia. What could that be?
Think
Red
about
or white?
Oh, it's
the most widely.
Yeah, all across the board.
Chardonnay
is third. Okay. According to statistics of about 2018, probably, but you know, you just have to go with rule number one is the quizmaster's always right.
Yeah. So just going back to the Philip Shaw. So what we try to do when we're selling Chardonnays, we're looking for butteriness in our Chardonnays rather than oakiness. And so that's what we think that this has got in it. And we always say it goes great with the truffle mushrooms and truffle oil. Brilliant combo. We also have another Chardonnay that's in the kind of a similar ilk, which is the Jordan Estate Chardonnay from Stellenbosch in South Africa.
Some of you will have tasted it a few weeks ago.
Yes. Similar style, possibly a little bit more fruit. I don't know. I'd have to sit down and we'd have to sit down and compare and contrast. But for us,
I think
for us, it's getting the butteriness. And in actual fact, I asked somebody in the trade just a couple of months ago and said, what would you suggest for buttery Chardonnay? And it's really difficult to get because they tend to emphasize this oak, which people are less keen on.
Because it's a
very
bit of a
difficult
cheat, isn't
to find
it?
Well, it's great winemaking if they can get that kind of like glean, that style, which is it's less sort of heavy.
But to get a Chardonnay that packs a punch, quite an easy bit of winemaking is to wax smoking, isn't it? But if you've actually got that pure quality in the fruit, which is just complemented by a delicate touch of oak.
So what's the alcohol on that, Jude?
13, I think. 13.3, weirdly, because you don't usually get... It's usually in 0.5%, isn't it?
Yeah. Actually, that's a good point to make. Actually, anybody who's looking at the alcohol on the back of the label, there's a 0.5% tolerance. So if the alcohol comes in at say 13.1, then the winemaker is able to put either 13% or 13.5% on the label. So for those of you who,
depends what they want to say, doesn't it?
There's tolerance, either they prefer to show wines with sort of lower alcohol, which is 13, but there is that 0.5% tolerance. So it's never bang on. It's never
actually interestingly on a similar ilk, and we did mention this the other day. Also wines which say they are Chardonnay or Pinot Noir or Merlot or Shiraz, whatever, aren't necessarily 100% that grape variety, right?
No. That's right.
So in a similar sort of rounding, it's about that.
Yeah. So if, for example, a South African Chardonnay, a 100% Chardonnay, they are only obliged to use 85%. The remaining 15% can be anything, and yet they can stipulate it is pure Chardonnay on the label. So something to remember. So a lot of wines, particularly the lower end, they won't be 100% Chardonnay. They'll be the absolute minimum, 85% Chardonnay, and then it'll be made up of a cheaper grape.
But also you can use those other grape varieties that have got different characteristics to make the sort of wine you want. Right? So if you've got a red wine, which is a Pinot Noir that's very, very fruity, but you wish it had a bit more tannic structure, then you could pop a bit of something else in, but you don't need to mention it because you can get away with it. There's lots of answers coming in here for the most widely grown grape variety in Australia, and lots of
who said Erlo?
It's the West Country version. There's a lot of right answers here actually, and it is Shiraz. So well done, good guess, and it's quite considerably the biggest grape variety, followed closely by Cabernet Sauvignon, then Chardonnay, Merlot, Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Noir, and then the rest fall into. Cabernet. Did you? Oh, it was a good job I didn't let you answer.
Is that Chile?
Chile. Cabernet. Yes, I think it was. Yeah,
Chile's Cabernet.
Yeah, that was confusing. So Steve chooses his wine based on whether he likes it rather than what it's actually made from.
Absolutely.
Especially if you get the chance to taste it first, right?
Yeah. Don't get het up about grape varieties. Really don't. We discussed this last night, actually.
But don't go anywhere near Pinot Grigio.
Yeah, exactly. Stay away from Pinot Grigio.
That is a sweeping statement as well. But we do like to bash them, the Pinot Grigios.
Okay, right. Should we crack on?
Yeah, should we move to Simon Hackett?
Yeah, let's crack on with Mr. Hackett.
I'm just going to put another little question out there, just, keep people thinking.
Yeah.
So Australia produces, hang on.
I'm just going to get the Hackett.
Oh, here, this one.
Oh, there it is.
Here's one I made earlier. We've said before that in the Languedoc region in the south of France, they produce twice the amount of wine as the whole of Australia.
Yes, didn't say this,
So France has got massive wine production, but Australia is actually up there as it's quite one of the top 10 countries in the world for volume production.
I think it's number 6 after China and the US.
Well, that was going to be my question.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, guys. Okay, well, Pam's wrong actually.
Oh,
slightly. So I'll put it out there anyway.
Sorry about that.
Where in the top 10 do you think Australia sits? Look, I was at the vet thinking about this, so we haven't had a chance to talk about this in advance.
Yeah, it's all a bit stressful today, to be honest.
And again, I think this is based on 2018 statistics, so it probably has changed slightly. But again, I was waiting for Finn to vomit up a beach ball. So, so look it up. Clarky says that. Bob says that Clarky must be right because she Googled it, but I think that was back to the grape varieties.
Don't believe everything you read on Google.
Okay, then in which case, here's one. Don't say anything. What about consumption? Okay, wine consumption, not per capita, but are the Aussies big drinkers or not? Let's go back to Kate McLeod, the real Aussie. Are you big drinkers or not? Where in the world, in let's say the top 10, does Australia sit as a volume of wine consumed? Okay, so bear in mind the USA is first. They're enormous because they've got a lot of people and they've got a large middle class. And
you know what's going to happen now, don't you? The little star's coming.
Oh, here we go.
Come on, up you come, Bob. Here he is.
Oh,
here he is.
He's obviously feeling a little bit better.
Come on, he's come to say hello. All right, buddy.
He's definitely not himself. But
say hello. Here he is. Okay.
Okay.
Anybody who's got a dog, do not let them eat balls.
We wanted to get him involved. He was seeming
Here
like
he is. Look at his little eyes. Doesn't look very well.
Oh dear. We wanted him to get him involved in the games, and he was being really sort of, I don't know. He looked like he needed some activity, so we played some bat and ball, and he was running after us. And then when he caught the ball, he just looked up and went, "Oh,
oh dear." Oh dear, never mind. No wine, no biscuits for you now.
Again, will you? Anyway, the vet gave me the dog back with the ball in a little bag. I'm glad that it wasn't the rest of the stomach content.
Can we use it again then?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, that's most important. The 300-pound bottle of £300 ball, that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's worth a lot of money. So, back in the room. Actually, Pam sort of ruined the answer to the where they are in terms of production. The figures I looked at earlier on today was 7th in the world, so 6, 7, close
Sorry
enough.
about that.
But then it does keep changing because,
Yeah.
like you say, China is there, and I think they really vie with Argentina.
Yeah.
But they are a massive country. Bearing in mind the land space of Australia is similar or a little bit smaller than the United States.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the other interesting thing about Australian wine actually is that its real surge was during the war, and just going back to Dr. Penfolds and Dr. Lindemans. These guys were, they were physicians, and they were largely responsible for suggesting, wine consumption amongst the military, seriously dosed with sugar, because the last thing you want on the front
on the front line, yeah,
on the front line
nice
is something
dry
that's a little
tannic.
bit sort of challenging.
Yeah.
So their wines were historically incredibly dosed with sugar, quite full of alcohol. But of course, that was a method that was used across the world, in actual fact, to send the soldiers where they maybe didn't want to go. But that's where Lindemans and Penfolds actually materialized from. And I'm just trying to think. There's many more, and I can't think of them all.
The back in the historic ones, yeah. Interestingly, totally different country, but not too dissimilar to how Camembert got its popularity in France.
Oh yeah, Camembert.
If anyone's ever visited Camembert or been to Normandy, there's not a lot of wine going on there, but there is a lot of Calvados and cheese, which is really quite enjoyable in itself. And Camembert was similar, that they used the big and possibly only at the time producer of Camembert was sent roundels of the cheese out to the front line as their own sort of gift, their sort of philanthropic gesture during the war. And when all the soldiers came home and family life resumed, that sort of nostalgia about the cheese made it France's number one best-selling and most loved cheese, and as it probably still is to this day.
And it still is.
So it's kind of quite a good concept next time we all go to war.
Yeah.
If you've got a product, send it to the front line, because it'll probably be quite popular afterwards. Anyway,
maybe we should be doing something at the moment.
You're right. We are.
Yeah, we're serving the nation. We're serving the nation. Right, Simon Hackett. Let's talk about him.
Okay, yeah. We love Simon Hackett. He's a lovely guy down in the South Australia this time.
Yeah.
McLaren Vale.
Interesting thing about this guy is that actually he doesn't own a single vineyard.
So how does he
make his wine?
Where does the wine come on?
He has been sourcing, he reckons, and he's probably absolutely bang on, that farming is, it's a clown's game, and he doesn't want to get anywhere close to it because of, climate interference and what have you. It's a tough thing growing vines. It's a tough thing growing anything. So he chooses to source from other producers, but he, of course, is at the top of his game, and he has pick of the bunch. He doesn't muck about. He goes to the best producers, and he blends accordingly. One thing about this particular wine that's really, really important, and there's not a lot that's important on the label, but the big thing on this label is the stipulation of old vines. And old vines, Jude, how old are they?
75-year-old plus.
75-year-olds, which is ridiculously old for a vine.
Mm-hmm.
And why is an old vine better than a young vine?
So they have to work incredibly hard to produce less volume of fruit.
Yeah.
Therefore, the fruit that you get at the end of it has got a much greater concentration, right?
Yeah.
So a bit like if you were given a job to do and you just go, right, bish, bash, bosh, job done, give me the next one, job done. Yeah. Or you're given a job to do and you go, right, I'm going to take my time, I'm going to craft this into the perfect, not sort of person you want on your staff force, particularly, but you get a much better quality, more carefully produced product at the end. And vines that are old have low yields, but really good concentration and really real depth of flavor in the fruit.
Yeah.
I
always use the analogy. I mean, they're just like people, really. People get older, they have to work harder to get the same results. And with old vines, they have to, the roots dig deeper, they work harder, they're not as rigorous, so they don't produce as much fruit on the vine. But as Jude says, the quality is that much better. And it's like, it's like an adolescent versus a wise old man, who are you going to believe first?
Which one would you rather sit down and have a conversation with?
Exactly.
Well, they're actually saying that.
But so 70, 75-year-old vines is kind of unusual, but fantastic when you can get them. Go on.
Sorry, Tim's just asked about what would we eat with the Grenache. Now, this Grenache has got lovely bold fruit to it.
Yeah.
And we've served it at many a tasting with canapés of a similar ilk to the duck one, maybe a bit less on the soy and a bit more on the fruit. So the kind of plummy sauce kind of thing. It can take quite big flavors, although it's not a heavy wine as such.
No, and anybody who's opened it, you will have noticed that it's actually got a slight sort of bronziness to it. It's a slight orangeness around the rim of the glass. And that isn't often that sort of bronziness, bronziness is associated with age. But in this case, it's not. It's associated with the grape variety. Grenache always has that slightly orange hue to it. It's not old. It's just the color of the grape. And then the other thing about Grenache is that people. Sorry, I'm just getting my glass filled. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much.
There we go. That's better.
It does. Cheers. It does divide opinion because there are some people who just don't like the style that Grenache gives, which is fruity. Grenache is all about fruit. And some people just don't like that. People prefer a little bit sort of earthier, tannic styles.
But the Hackett gives you body and structure as well.
It does. Yeah.
It's 2015 vintage at the moment, so it's also got a little bit of age to it.
Yeah.
And it's just stunning. So really recommend it. If you haven't, next time you place an order, pop a bottle in there. Yes.
So what do we eat with it?
Well, I was saying sort of duck with a kind of plum sauce.
Yep.
It takes meat really nicely, but it also takes kind of a little bit of sweetness in your food quite well. So, you know, if you were to have like a rabbit casserole, my dad makes rabbit casserole with prunes or dates in it. And it's lovely. And I reckon that would be the perfect combination.
Okay, now Mr. Steve Roncontra, he's going to recommend lobster quesadillas, mainly because that's what he's prepared for dinner. Well, good luck with that. I think actually also the other thing to say is that this wine can be chilled. You can chill it down because it has a very low tannic level. So there aren't very many red grape varieties that you can chill down. Pinot Noir is one of them. And Grenache, to a degree, is another. So when I say chill, don't chill the hell out of it. Just, you know, take the edge off.
Take the edge off, yeah.
And I think, Steve Roncontra, with your lobster quesadilla, maybe you will want to chill it down a little bit.
So just going back to where Australia sits in the world's consumption
Down
of wine.
under? Oh, right, okay.
So Australia actually 10th in the world in terms of how much wine they consume annually.
God,
do you think, and we will be wrapping up relatively soon, but I want to put this out there. Do you think the UK, tiny little dinky island or islands, do you think we consume more or less than the Aussies per year? Not per capita, in total volume.
Are we including the last 8-week shutdown?
No, again, we're probably referring to 2018 statistics here. And again, the quizmaster is always right. But I think these two countries have stayed in the same order for the last as long as time.
Simon is just saying it's just so delicious. And it is. It's just so delicious.
It's just lovely.
More. Is that us or them? What was the question?
I think the UK.
What did we say?
I think we're saying UK is more or Australia is more here.
Is it us that's more or Australia more?
We'll let you just.
Everybody's agreeing.
Everyone's agreeing.
We just don't know what we asked.
Find out where Vicky's agreeing with more. I think probably the way I asked the question means where does the UK sit compared to Australia, and therefore UK. Yes, thank you guys. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, bang on. Absolutely right.
How much more?
Well, the UK sit in 6th, so 4 places above Australia, actually.
We're the 6th biggest consumer.
Yeah, and that's a massive.
Blimey.
Considering, you know, the population of the UK compared to places.
This is good for Hannibal Brown. Keep it up, guys. Keep it up.
Maybe this is recent statistics, actually.
Now, I did look on the website briefly because I was just reminding myself about Simon Hackett, and I noticed that we've got a little note on there that back in 2019 at one of our consumer tastings when we were all allowed to see each other and, you know, give each other a big hug and this, that, and the other, we put it with a barbecued lamb with carrot puree canopy.
Okay, yeah, I can
And
see that working.
apparently, according to our website,
Which
was
is always
fabulous. It was fantastic. I
Mhm.
can't remember it, but I do love lamb.
Yeah,
and
because
carrot
then the
puree.
sweetness of the carrot and then a bit of totally. That kind of combo, I can see it, definitely.
Yeah. So another Grenache, another fabulous Grenache, and one of my favourite wines actually, and I haven't had it for ages, is a wine from Sardinia. It's called Poderi Papinello. And when you look at the bottle, it will be called Cannonau. It refers to the grape variety as Cannonau, but actually Cannonau is exactly the same as Grenache.
Shiraz Syrah. As in, there's another word, two different names for the same grape.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, they're not all the same grapes. It's just confusing.
Yeah, so that's one of my favourite wines of the moment. So have a look, HannibalBrown.com. Poderi Papinello from Sardinia. We've only got a couple of Sardinian wines. The white is equally good, Vermentino, but Cannonau is the same as Grenache. So if you like this, and again with the Cannonau, you can just take the edge off it and chill it. It's nice in the summertime.
Yeah,
great alternative to rosé.
So,
hope you've been drinking your rosé all weekend, everybody.
The
weather's going to be amazing this week.
Summer
lots
is coming.
Of rosé, lots of rosé.
Summer is coming again. So, just a quick note about next week, and then we really need to, give Finn some attention because he's had an awful time. We've got on Thursday, it's the Two Fat Piggies, which are two biodynamic organic wines from Rioja, but they're not Rioja. And they're fantastic wines. And I've put the canapé recipes out already, and really try them because they're very simple. They go really well and they look good and they're really tasty.
Yeah.
So, and you don't need crazy, difficult ingredients for them.
Yeah.
For example, I've tried 3 times to buy fresh sage for Pam's pork pie, and it's just not happening.
I'm making a pork pie. It's very exciting. It's very stressful.
Slow process. It's a slow process.
We didn't say what had been going on because we were taken up by him.
Well, that is kind of primarily the main thing that has been going on.
I played tennis today. Hurrah for the first time.
Oh, lucky you.
Sorry about that. And I'm making a pork pie.
There you go. Hot off the press. I'll just mention the Big Pigs. So that's they're 2 really good wines. They sit at about £10 a bottle each. They're biodynamic, organic, got a really good story behind them, and go really well with these particular canapés. So do make an effort. Pop to the website. We'll put the link on as usual.
Yeah.
And then next Sunday is Sparkling Sunday, which is all about bubbly. We're going to talk about Champers, Prosecco, Cremant, Blanc de Blancs, Blanc de Noirs, you name it. But hopefully answer all sorts of questions and myth busting on the bubbly front.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go on.
I'm just going to ask a last question from Emma, who said, is it true that cheaper Grenaches seem very sweet? I never rated it before, but maybe I wasn't spending enough money. Absolutely, Emma. You weren't buying your wine in the right place.
But it also has to be said that in hot climates, if it gets overripe, it turns into sort of jam.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
And that's the thing. As the climate goes up, the acidity in the wine, in the grape, the potential acidity drops. And if you've got too much ripeness or too much heat, then the grapes start to ferment and they produce more and more and more alcohol. But alcoholic fermentation stops naturally at a certain point. And when it stops, there's still residual fructose in the grape, then you're going to get an element of sweetness. That's possible. But my advice to you, Emma, is steer clear of the bottom shelf of the supermarket. In fact, you shouldn't be going into any supermarket. Nobody should be going into any supermarkets at the moment.
Well, essentials.
Maybe the wine aisles, maybe just the wine aisles. But there's all sorts of jiggery pokery goes on with these big brands. And take it from me, you're better off going with something that is produced at the origin, where you know a little bit of history about that product.
But good quality Grenache can be absolutely fantastic. So it's worth exploring into.
As she's just discovered, hopefully.
Yeah, it's worth exploring into. Just a couple of other questions to answer. Oh, Luke's asked about Finn. Is he a lab? Well, he's half lab.
He's been in the laboratory.
He's half lab and he's half Mastiff. A bit of a concoction. We actually have only had him for just over a year. We got him from a rescue place where he was found as a stray and nobody wanted him back, which is very sad because he's a big teddy bear, really.
He doesn't look very well though. His eyes are right. His eyes are really bad.
He's had a bit of an ordeal, so we will take him. We'll give him some attention and maybe some food Possibly.
You're welcome, Tim. Any minute. He is very handsome, and so are you, Mr. Portnow. And
well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us. So again, we will be. Unfortunately, we did have a bit of a hurried setup this evening because of the Finn ball eating incident.
we will be just as spontaneous on Thursday, but possibly a little bit more organised.
We'll have the canapes, and we hope you do too. Yeah. We'll get the wines to you if you'd like them in advance. You know where to find us, HannibalBrown.com. Sunday Sparkling Sunday. And we might put a poll out just to see if people have got any requests or preferences for the following Thursday, because we've got so many different subjects we can talk about, but things like volcanic wines, specific countries or regions, Alsace in France, you know, there's so many great wines and topics, and if there's anywhere in particular, then do let us know, because we're very happy to be guided, or we'll just
maybe we'll put a poll out, but please do. And please keep sharing and liking and all that nonsense. It's fantastic for us. We'll keep doing these for as long as you keep listening, and we want to, so get as many people on these posts as possible.
So we'll give you a shout with all of the wines coming up. We'll put a poll out there. We might well have Instagram up and running, and sadly we might well have to get rid of the cork cans. That's a real shame that they were.
I like it. I like it.
Let's just see if we pixelate now. Maybe it is down to the core.
Is that what the problem was?
Finn's going to eat my head in a minute.
He's not going anywhere near it.
Okay, guys. Cool. Right. Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely evening all. Happy Sunday.
Yeah.
Cheers to everyone. Thanks for the good wishes to the big guy. He's appreciative, and he won't do it again.
No, better not.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Oh, English wine. Yes, English wine. We will definitely.
English wine. Good idea. Yeah. Look at Davenport, Tim. Davenport.
Okay. That's bye for now.
Bye. Oh,